My own son looked me in the eyes and said, "Dad, we can't keep paying for your problems anymore." He didn't whisper it. He said it across the polished conference table in his office while his assistants walked past the glass walls pretending not to listen. In that single moment, I realized the little boy I had worked 3 jobs to raise was now a millionaire who was embarrassed to call me his father. I didn't answer right away. I simply folded the unpaid hospital bill and slipped it back into my old jacket. The paper felt heavier than it should have. Just 2 weeks earlier, my doctor had told me I needed surgery soon. Without it, every month would become harder than the last. I wasn't asking my son to make me rich. I only needed enough help to stay alive. But he leaned back in his expensive chair, checked his watch, and sighed as if I was wasting his time. "Dad," he said again, softer this time, "people expect me to make smart financial decisions. If I keep giving money to family, everyone will want something." I stared at him, trying to find the young man who once cried, because he didn't want me working night shifts. Instead, I saw a stranger wearing a designer suit worth more than my monthly pension. Then he stood up, shook my hand like I was a customer, and said, "I hope you understand. That wasn't the worst part." As I walked toward the elevator, I heard laughter coming from the meeting room after the door closed. One voice said, "Glad that's over," another answered, "You can't let emotions run a company." My son's laugh came last, quiet, but clear enough for me to hear. It felt like someone had erased 40 years of sacrifices with a single laugh. I walked outside into the cold without knowing where I would go next. When I reached the bus stop, my phone buzzed. I expected another message from the hospital asking about payment. Instead, it was from my daughter, Emily. "Dad, are you home? I need to see you." I almost told her everything, but I didn't want to become another burden. So I replied with one word, "Why?" Her answer came back only seconds later. "Because I found something Mom wanted you to have, and I think my brother doesn't know it exists." I stared at the screen as my heartbeat quickened. My late wife had been gone for 3 years. I thought every paper, every memory, every secret she left behind had already been found. But the way Emily wrote that message told me this wasn't just another old family keepsake. Without realizing it, I tightened my grip on my phone. For the first time since leaving my son's office, I felt something I hadn't felt all day. Memorable viral line: "The child I raised with empty pockets had become rich, but the child with the smallest paycheck was about to change everything." I reached Emily's small apartment just before sunset. She opened the door with worried eyes and hugged me before saying a single word. Unlike her brother's luxury office, her home was simple. Toys from her 2 little boys were scattered across the floor, and the smell of homemade soup filled the room. She sat me down and carefully placed a worn brown envelope on the table. "I found this while cleaning Mom's old sewing cabinet," she whispered. "She told me years ago that if anything ever happened to her, I should only give it to you when you truly needed it." Inside the envelope was a handwritten letter from my wife, and copies of legal papers I had completely forgotten. 25 years earlier, when my son and I started a tiny construction business in our garage, my wife had insisted that I quietly keep a majority ownership agreement in case anything ever went wrong. Back then I laughed and called it unnecessary, but she had filed every document safely with our attorney. I never imagined I would need them. The next morning I visited the attorney whose name was written on the papers. He smiled sadly after reading them. "You never signed away your majority shares," he said. "Your son controls daily operations. But legally, you still own 51% of the company." I sat there speechless. "But there's something else," the attorney continued. "We've received complaints for months from employees about financial misconduct. If you're willing to act, we can legally request a full audit." That was the first twist no one saw coming. The audit uncovered far more than anyone expected. Company money had been used for luxury vacations, hidden bonuses, and expensive personal purchases. My son wasn't acting alone. His business partner had convinced him to hide the spending by changing financial records. They believed I would never ask questions because I trusted family. When the board members saw the evidence, the room fell silent. My son looked at me with panic in his eyes. "Dad, I can explain." For the first time, I didn't interrupt him. "No," I said quietly. "You've been explaining for years. Today you'll listen." The board voted to remove both my son and his partner from leadership while investigators reviewed the records. The news spread quickly. Newspapers called it one of the biggest business scandals in the city. Friends who had ignored my calls suddenly wanted to know my side of the story. But my biggest surprise came a week later. Emily handed me an envelope. Inside was a cashier's check for $2,000. "I know it's not enough," she said, almost embarrassed. "It's everything I've saved. Please use it for your surgery." Tears filled my eyes. She worked 2 jobs, drove an old car, and still found a way to help me. The millionaire had turned me away. The daughter with almost nothing gave me everything she could. I hugged her tighter than I had hugged anyone in years. "You've already saved my life," I whispered. Because of the company's insurance and the legal settlement, my surgery was fully covered. I recovered slowly, surrounded by Emily, her husband, and my grandsons. They visited every day. Laughter returned to my life in a way money never could. Months later, my son came to see me. He looked nothing like the confident executive who had dismissed me. His suit was gone. His expensive watch was gone. His voice shook. "I lost everything," he admitted. "My friends disappeared. My partner blamed me. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm asking anyway." I looked at him for a long moment. "You didn't lose everything the day the company removed you," I said. "You lost everything the day you forgot who stood beside you before you had money." He lowered his head. "I didn't give him the company back. I didn't give him money. Instead, I offered him something much harder to earn. A chance to rebuild, one honest step at a time." He accepted. It took years, not weeks. He started with a regular job, paid back what he legally owed, apologized to former employees, and slowly became a different man. Trust didn't return overnight, but every small action mattered more than 1,000 promises. I eventually transferred most of my company shares to Emily. She refused at first. "Dad, I don't want your money," I smiled. "That's exactly why you deserve it." She used the business to create jobs, treated employees like family, and made sure no one was ever ignored because they needed help. Looking back, I realized the greatest gift my wife left wasn't illegal. Papers. It was the wisdom to protect our family from greed, even after she was gone. People often ask if I regret helping my son become successful. My answer is always the same. I don't regret raising him. I only regret believing money could never change him. And if there's one lesson my life taught me, it's this: the richest person in your family isn't the one with the biggest bank account. It's the one who still stands beside you when you have nothing.